Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to this week's edition of the PD16 Perspective. I am your host, John Reid, and a little shout out to the LCPM network for making this all possible. Each week, we want to make sure that you, the fine citizens of the PD16, are informed, empowered, and ready to engage. In this week's edition, we're going to talk about the Virginia House Democrats, the decision they made last week to oust the former Speaker, Delegate Eileen Filler-Corn, from her position, and what that means for the Democrats in the upcoming elections. Also, we're going to be talking with Faith Jarvis about the Keys versus Spotsylvania School Board petition and where the case is going now and what she'd like to see happen with the school board going forward when it comes to accountability and transparency. And finally, if you're a parent or of a student who attends schools in the PD16, may want to listen to this final announcement. Stay tuned. If you live in Virginia, and especially in the PD16, you knew exactly what happened last November. We like to call it the red wave of sorts, when the Republicans took over the major parties and one of the major elections, I should say, and were able to occupy the highest office in the Commonwealth. Somebody was going to fall on the sword. Well, that has finally happened. Last Wednesday, and the Virginia House Democrats made a decision to oust the minority leader, Delegate Eileen Filler-Corn, who has served in Fairfax County since 2010. She has served as Speaker from 2020 until this year. And this was led by Delegate Don Scott Jr. and the others who voted that on the decision. Now, while we don't know specifically who voted for it, this has large ramifications, not just statewide, but primarily in PD16, where we've seen a lot of Democrats who are trying to make runs in the respective races, of course, redistricting. I want to read a comment or a tweet, I should rather say, from the former Speaker, Delegate Eileen Filler-Corn, that she posted on Twitter last Wednesday as she made the announcement, as the announcement was heard. I thank the people of Virginia and my colleagues in the House of Delegates for allowing me to serve as the first woman and the first person of Jewish faith to serve as Speaker in the 403-year history of the Commonwealth. Truly the honor of my life. I was proud of all that we accomplished after taking the majority in 2019 and was willing to step up as minority leader once more to regain that majority. Our caucus is made up of 48 talented and diverse individuals, and I look forward to working with them to retake the majority. It's interesting because had she really worked for progress, maybe we wouldn't be in the minority right now. Maybe Democrats would not be the minority party. Maybe they'd be in a position where they continue to have the majority. And this is going to be very interesting as we see the races take place. Will we continue to see the Republicans gaining a greater foothold in the races, or what will Democrats, will they rally? Or will this be a lesson learned? Because we know throughout politics, whenever it comes to certain parties being able to run, you always got to look at the pulse of what the culture is saying, and especially in PD16, as it's becoming more diverse. That are we listening, are the Democrats listening to the voices of Black people, particularly Black women? Are they willing to listen, or are they still trying to have the same good old boy network, the same ceiling that has limited such wonderful people who ran in the community and just PD16 and throughout the state of Virginia when it comes to not only just major races, but also in local delegate races as well. And so this may be a lesson learned that when the races resume again in a couple of years, in Virginia, we have a race every year, election every year. Will this be something that not only the Democrats, but their supporters will finally call them out on? Accountability and transparency, which we've been a follower of this show, is something we've talked about ad nauseum. But that being said, with the outgoing Speaker, and now right now there is no one in that position yet. Now it does read, I'm going to read from our sister publication, the PW Perspective, I should say, that Delegate Charnel Herring, 46th District, is the current chair of Democratic caucus in the House of Delegates. But she is remaining the caucus chair, but they don't know if her position will be removed as well. So, we saw this when, on the national level in 2016, with the Democrats lost the White House, and Hillary Clinton, people who were especially her Democratic Party were removed. And so often the losing party when it comes to major races, someone is going to take the fall for this. And in this case, it was her. So will it have a change in leadership? We'll see. But the lesson that should be learned from this and taken away from this is that if you wouldn't want to run racist, do not take people's voices for granted. Do not take their votes for granted. Do not take their presence for granted anymore. If you've been following the show, we've been keeping you updated on the Michaela Keys versus the Spotsylvania School Board petition and about what the case was. Now, while there has been an update where the trial was originally supposed to be taking place on April 29th, it has been postponed until May 27th. And so we've been posting on our Facebook page on PD16 Perspective updates, and shout out to the Edwards Law Firm, PA LLC, for making that possible. And so what we're going to be doing is we're going to be talking with several people who have supported Michaela in this case. And in this case, we had the opportunity to speak with someone who is very near and dear to her heart and to the Spotsylvania community. It's Faith Jarvis.
How are you?
Awesome, Faith. How are you today?
I'm doing good.
Oh, awesome. Thank you so much. I've been really looking forward to talking with you and just, getting a chance to kind of get your perspective, because I know you've been so supportive of Michaela and just the community in large with the situation of Spotsylvania School Board. And so I just want to kind of get these from your take and things you've seen and where this could possibly go.
Well, I'm sure that you're aware that there has been a postponement with the one case, and the reason for that is because of the other case, which had to be appealed to get precedent set. A lot of people really wanted this to happen tomorrow because they really want them to be held accountable. But as with all things legally related, things take time. And so I think that this is something where they're going to realize that you can't break the law, that people in the town will rally together. And these are people from all various, political parties, et cetera, because, it's not about politics. It's a school board, and a school board is supposed to be non-political. And so this is about our children. And so I honestly think that hopefully these cases will be successful. I know that there's probably a lot more where that came from, because they continuously seem to break the law regardless of any consequences that may come of their actions, or they simply break policy where there's really nothing that you can do about it other than recall them. And that takes more money, more time, et cetera. And so I think they just kind of feel that they're untouchable. And so I think that with this current case pending, that when and if Michaela wins, and I feel that she will win this case, I think at that point, maybe they'll stop doing what they're doing. But until then, they're going to continue doing what they're doing.
Absolutely. And like you said, there's a strong belief that Michaela will win this case. And so you have a personal connection with her and her family and so many of her supporters. What's it been like just with her personally? I mean, taking on this responsibility and challenging the school board to be more accountable?
Michaela is affectionately known as my triplet. Her and my son have been friends for many, many years. They both graduated from Spotsylvania County Public Schools. Both are in college currently. And I can honestly say that the attacks on Michaela, I find them downright repulsive. How can anyone tell her that she's racist when she filed this suit against the four? How can anyone say that this is a bogus lawsuit when clearly, if it were bogus, it would have been dismissed, which means that there obviously is legal backing and grounds for this case. Her family has handled this with such grace and dignity. They've attacked their business, they've attacked her, and they've all handled it very well. I certainly do not think that, I've handled it as well as I can as well, because obviously I am at the meetings with Michaela. But honestly, I don't think I would handle it with as much grace and dignity as they have, because to say that she's racist and that she only filed against the white board members is a little ironic, because she filed against the entire school board first and foremost. Right. But there were four in particular that broke the rules and that certified the session and did so intentionally, willfully, and knowingly to our, to our opinion and what we've seen, as I'm sure you've seen the video. And Robbie Abusmal is definitely not Caucasian. So to call her racist for that just doesn't make sense. And the last time I checked, she's Black. So that in and of itself doesn't make a whole lot of sense. She never made this about race. She never made this about politics. This is simply about the school system that educated her, that's educating her sister, that educated her other sister and her older brother. It's falling apart. Her youngest sister is going to be directly affected by this. And so she said, no, enough's enough. And they just constantly do what they're doing with disregard for the staff, the students, the community at large. And it's just sad. And this is why it's so important that people vote, because people think, well, if I don't have kids in school, it doesn't affect me. Well, it does. I'm a local business owner. It's going to affect my taxes, because when people decide to leave the town, and they ultimately will, then guess what? That's less revenue. That's less of everything, but they're still, developing new communities, adding more students to these schools, yet they're defunding our schools. And the other thing that people don't understand is that the school board presents a budget to the Board of Supervisors.
Yes.
The Board of Supervisors at that point then has to approve it. And they've been defunding schools for years, and they're continuously doing so. And so a lot of people were all excited because, yay, they passed the 5.6 million to help modernize the school. But if you don't deal with the compression issue, the modernization is pointless. And as with funds that come from state and federal, they have to be spent in certain places. So when they don't fully fund the budget, they then have to take the money that they have that is not specifically allocated for things and use that money to make up for things. So I think that the community at large is just not aware of the fact that not voting in those local elections absolutely and entirely affect you. They literally affect your property tax value. And the other thing is too, they keep saying, well, if we do this, we're going to have to raise your property taxes to fund the schools. They've never given the money to the schools. So even if you were to raise the property taxes, it's not going to the schools. So that's the other thing that just keeps happening in the town at large. So, and the new school board is very biased, and they've shown that. And the majority discriminates against people with education. You are a school board for public schools, yet you do not reward the administrators, the staff that work well over 55 hours a week, anybody making over $100,000 a year. And the irony in that is you require them to have those extra certificates and degrees in order to hold the positions that they hold. And then you penalize them for it. And they're doing the jobs that are left by maintenance that aren't getting done. But yet April Gillespie, whose husband, stepfather, and stepbrother work in maintenance for Spotsylvania County Schools, she made sure that they got their raise and they got their bonus. It's just sad. And the other thing that's very disrespectful, especially to the Black women in our community that sit on these boards, which Dr. Daniels handled it very well this past board meeting when she called her Miss Daniels, and she said, oh, are you talking about Miss Renee Daniels? Because she's Dr. Daniels, but they don't want to call her that. And so Miss Gillespie refers to Dr. Flanard, who has been Dr. Flanard long before she was elected. She calls her Miss Flanard. And I'm like, why are you so disrespectful? And then, Lisa Phelps turns around and tells Dr. Daniels, hey, Miss Daniels. No, it's Dr. Daniels. It's not changed. And they speak out of both sides of their mouths. So Ms. Phelps says, I feel that you should reward people that have been there. They deserve a bonus for being tenured employees. Then turns around and says, nope, we're not going to give administrators bonuses because they make more than $100,000 a year. And again, I've seen a lot of discrimination, and Michaela's dealt with a lot of it. I've never seen discrimination in all of my years by a public school board for people having an education. just makes no sense to me.
And that's the saddest part. And we've seen this, in Spotsylvania has kind of become the template for how, like I said, those hardworking teachers, those who put so much into the community, but yet still continue to be mistreated in a sense. And so, and can you talk a bit about just the support that Michaela has gotten as well? Because I think we've studied a lot on some of the Spotsy, news and some of the blogs that have said, oh, they're wrong. Can you talk a little about those who have supported her efforts and, with their administrators, teachers, and in that regard?
I think it is awesome. The amount of support that she's seen, people that show up. She chose yellow and gold as her color. So that's the color that we wear. When we were in court, it was amazing to see how many people were wearing yellow and gold just to support Michaela. And so there are a lot of teachers, former teachers, her librarian, a lot of her teachers, her track coach. There are so many people that genuinely support Michaela, in addition to myself, and students are supporting Michaela as well. And I think it was a very, very prominent display of support with Sydney, who was at the board meeting, and she was in gold from head to toe. I'm talking the gold eyeshadow. It was wonderful. And so just to see that many people showing up and supporting her and donating to her GoFundMe. She's not to her goal yet, but she is definitely well on her way there. And I think the more and more people learn about what's going on, the more and more people will donate, but people want instant gratification. And it's funny because the very first thing Michaela talked about in November during the book burning nonsense and the LGBTQIA hate that was going on was that kids want instant gratification. Well, adults are the same way now, because since Amazon, we wait 2 days at most,
Right.
And so the thing with a lawsuit is it's not instant. It's not going to be instant gratification. And so I think people just need to stick with her. She's got a lot more where this came from. And she is fighting for the teachers, for the administrators, for the bus drivers, for the maintenance workers, for the cafeteria workers, for the paras. She's fighting for everybody. And most importantly, she's fighting for the students because she wants them to have the quality of education that she had. And so I think seeing that support for me personally is just amazing. And anytime we go out afterwards, people are like, so what's up with the yellow? And so you get the chance to, spread the word to more of the community. So it's really great, honestly.
Beautiful. And finally, I just want to ask, like you say, there's a strong confidence that she'll win this petition.
Mm-hmm.
But where do you think it'll go from here? Where do you think will it stop the snowball effect, or will it finally be the vocal for change in Spotsylvania schools?
I think that to stop individuals with a level of arrogance and disrespect for others to the extent that these four seem to be displaying right now, the way that they treat basically every single ethnic woman on that board, because let's face it, Dawn Shelley is, Lebanese. You've got Nicole Cole and Dr. Daniels, who are Black. They are treated so disrespectfully. They're not allowed to have an opinion. They get gavelled for having an opinion, which is gross misuse of power. And all of these things, I think, until they personally are fined, they're not going to stop. Because what's the incentive? They have other people in their ears telling them, hey, do this. It's pretty obvious that they're not speaking for themselves. All you have to do is look back at the other meetings and then see the things that they say now. It's pretty obvious somebody's speaking for them. And it's sad, but I do think that if Michaela wins, these cases, I do think that they're going to see that they will be held accountable. And at some point, you have to look at it and say, you get paid $1,000 a month to sit on this board. And it's going to cost you more than that to sit there if you keep breaking the rules and breaking the law. So I think that this is the only opportunity and chance that we have. A recall is not going to find them personally. It makes them sit in timeout until the next election, which doesn't really do any good. They are actually breaking the law. This is not we're breaking policy. They are breaking the law, and they are doing so, in our opinion, willfully and intentfully and just knowingly. So again, I do think that if and when she wins, I do think that they will start to realize that it's going to cost them more to sit there than it is to follow the rules and do what they should do. And ultimately, at the end of the day, I beg them to please do what's right for this town, for these students, for these individuals, and stop, for the love of all things holy, saying that you're conservative when you fired our superintendent without cause.
Right.
That cost us money because they had to pay him through his contract. Then you had to hire an acting superintendent, and Dr. Flanard is wonderful. I think we would all be lucky to have her. But they obviously are going to have to pay her more in order to do the acting superintendent role that she's doing now. Now they had to hire a search firm to find a superintendent, and now they have to pay another person, another superintendent, and it's going to cost substantially more than what they were paying Dr. Baker to begin with. So that is not something that we as conservatives do. We do not throw money away. And the other thing is that we are all about government transparency. We don't like backdoor deals. We absolutely hate it. So stop insulting the true conservatives in this town, because there's a lot of us, because we don't believe in that. And so to call anybody, especially me, a liberal, and even if I were, it shouldn't matter, because again, this is about our students. This is about our town. This shouldn't be about party lines. Do what's best for the town and for the community. And if you run everybody off because you're not paying them, and they're giving them way more money to go 20 minutes north or south or east or west, they're gonna leave. And then we're stuck with what's left amongst us. And that's not what anybody wants.
No, not at all. And I can't thank you enough for just your voice and your support of Michaela and for everyone here. And so let's do this again. Let's talk when once we got the trial and things go away.
May 27th. That's the next one.
Absolutely. Looking forward to it. Faith Jarvis, I can't thank you enough. Let's do this again when the trial is finally over and you can celebrate and see progress going from there.
I appreciate it. Thank you so much for your time today.
We'd like to thank Ms. Jarvis so much for her voice and what she continues to do in the community. And we will keep you all updated as we receive reports on the trial and where it goes from there. Finally, I want to give an update for many of your parents who are looking for opportunities to send your child to, whether it's a four-year university or to a career and technical school, to, we always need a little bit of money, a little bit of finance. So I want to give this final announcement that's going to take place about a scholarship opportunity. So if you're in the PD16 district and you have a student who is attending school, here's an update on a scholarship. This is to help post-secondary education and parents of all these students. It's by Enough and Leap has a $500 scholarship opportunity available to all high school students in King George, Stafford, Fredericksburg, and Spotsylvania areas. It's easy to apply, and students must submit a 500 to 700 word essay on a prompt that will be selected, and then submit documentation showing extracurricular activities such as community service or an art. So, instead of taking time going home off the bus or hang out with your friends, hey, your community service, it goes a long way. Or just your art, if you're an artistic talent, then an opportunity to show what you're doing during these scholarships. Now, we're going to put the link on our PD16 Perspective Facebook page, and the deadline is going to be May the 20th, 2022. Top 10 candidates will then be selected to go before a panel, and the winners will be announced at the special King George event on Juneteenth of this year, which the PD16 Perspective will be a part of. So we'll put that announcement on our Facebook page. You can find us at PD16 Perspective, and good luck to all those who enter in. But that was our show this week, and we'd again like to thank LCPM Network for making this all possible. And to you, the viewers at home, if you live in the Stafford County area, we encourage you to make their voices be heard at the upcoming Stafford County Board of County Supervisors meeting taking place on Tuesday, May the 3rd. Make sure your voices are heard. Make sure that you have comment time and speak out. You have a lot of issues going with the budget. Always want to speak out in concerns of our schools and for our neighborhoods, and be able to be a voice for those who are without. This is John Reid. You can join us every Monday here on the PD16 Perspective Facebook page. Again, join us. Make sure your voices are heard. Get out. Tag, you're it. Have a good week.